Good evening and welcome to the Halcyon Show. My name is Lord Risley, host of the show. How are you doing? Thank you very much for joining me if and when you join me for this conversation this evening. Unfortunately, this is going to be one of those long, rambling, existential talks that I have mainly for posterity rather than to have any real impact on anything. But I've had a long week and I wanted to talk about some of the things that I've gleaned over the past few days. So let's just jump straight into it. Honesty. God, where do we start? I guess the way I want to kick this off is, isn't it funny how if you're a parent, one of the things you try and teach your kids is to be honest. You try and teach them to be honest with you. And the reason for that is because, typically speaking, when they lie to you or they're disingenuous, it's typically disadvantageous to you to not have the correct information from the child. I.e., did you eat that thing? Did you take this thing? Did you say that? Did you hit this person? Yet, when you transition into being an adult, it's so painfully evident so many people can't handle honesty. They can't handle it. They can't handle hearing it. And they certainly can't handle sharing it. I've got to be delicate with how I broach this subject. I'll talk about it more when I can. Basically, for a while now, I'm having rumours spread about me. And I'm having disparaging comments made about me that have got fuck all basis in reality and truth. And the saddest part is, 9 times out of 10, when someone comes to me with an issue, or someone comes to me with a problem, or they've got some disparaging thought about something I've said or done, if they'd have just come to me in the first place, I'd have taken it under advisement. It's very rare that when someone comes to me with a criticism, I won't at least contemplate it from a certain perspective. I think I'm an outlier in that respect, though. I think so many people are perfectly happy to live within illusions of their own lives, illusions of their own perspective of themselves, illusions of how they want to be viewed versus how they are actually viewed. It's difficult to gauge how realistic that is, because we live in an age now as well where honesty isn't really coveted. The perception is far more important than the reality of a situation. Again, I feel like the other thing as well is that I tend to try and be honest as a default, mainly because I just don't like being caught out at a lie or a hypocritical statement or anything along those lines. But mainly because I like to know that people know where I stand. But again, it's weird because I feel like as well that the very nature of trying to be honest all the time invites this perception of being disingenuous. Like, it's a work. Like, oh, you don't really mean that. You're just saying that. And the reason I titled it, I try to be honest, but it always ends up costing me, is one of two things. Either I try and be honest, and people use that honesty in a disingenuous way to further their own narratives, to paint me in a certain light, or whatever it is. Or that honesty isn't received with the intent that it's meant for, which is I've got less of a problem with, because you can never control the reaction or the reception from someone. You can only control your intent. And I've always been clear that, look, I don't say things to hurt people's feelings necessarily. I say them because I want to affect change. I see a problem and I want to affect change. I want things to get better. I want things to function the way they're supposed to function. And I want everyone to feel secure in it. Does that mean happy all the time? Absolutely not. Sometimes honesty is being brutal with people. Sometimes honesty is broaching subjects that they would rather keep sort of taboo and untouched. And that's fine. Except for it, just in my experience, being honest with myself was one of the greatest realizations I had in my life. Personally, professionally, and spiritually, and mentally, and physically, and all the rest of that sort of stuff. Having the honesty to go, I could be healthier, but there's reasons I can't be. Can I eliminate those reasons? Some yes, some no. Right. Now I can be realistic about what's possible to achieve as far as my physique or my health is concerned. Okay. Being realistic with my own capacity, my own abilities. I often get labeled as this. I know it sounds stupid to complain about this, but I'm going to complain about it anyway. I get labeled an intelligent person a lot. I promise you, whenever I walk in a room, I'm probably one of the 2 dumbest people in that room, and I can be in a room with myself and still be at least in the bottom 2 dumb people. It's just not really possible for me to be as intelligent as a lot of people walking the earth today. But the point I'm making there is at least I can be realistic enough to understand that, and honest with myself enough to understand that, to try and aspire to be better, to aspire to learn how to do certain things and be certain things. Anyways, the thing with honesty, though, in my opinion, at the moment, and the reason I'm having such a problem with it is because I can't really help myself. I kind of expect it of myself, and therefore I expect it of other people, and therefore I have to be able to be brave enough is the wrong word, but I've got to be able to trust people enough to be honest with them. And the big problem, and it costs me all the time, is that it really just does feel like at the moment, in a lot of different aspects of the world, people just don't want to hear it. And of course, this is my honesty. I'm not saying that what I'm saying is cast iron and is true by every definition or factual in any way, shape or form. It's still my perception. But even, like, the one that gets me at the moment, I'll give you an example of something that's just, it just seems like such a really awful thing to have as an option, but it's an option nonetheless. You've seen it advertised that phones now will give you the option of taking a bunch of pictures and you can clip the head to the one that you want so that the picture matches more of your expectations, right? But that's not the moment you're capturing, so why the fuck are you capturing? What are you trying to capture in that moment? It's a fabrication. It's not real anymore. That's not a picture that you're making. That's a fucking poster that you're making using people that you know as fucking faces. That's not a memory that you're capturing there. That's not life you're capturing. And yet, that's just basically the accumulation or the realization from 20 years of technology that's all designed to kind of warp reality to suit our own needs. The thumbnail for this video uses Canva. And Canva has so many different technologies within it that allow you to warp, edit, change, hem, hue, anything about anything to make it look how you want it to look. And you're pretty much limited by your own imagination. And that's great from an artistic perspective. To generate something that's evocative or colourful or interesting. But when you're just taking a picture of your family or your mates on a night out, what happened to just taking a picture? And I point that out by saying, to add further credence to my point, it's not just technology, it's the way people treat those moments. It's, hang on, everyone stop, drop whatever you're fucking doing, turn to me, you've got 5 seconds to pose properly, we're going to take it until we get it right. And I fucking hate that. I absolutely loathe that practice. I appreciate that people find it, there's a sensitivity involved to it, so I tend to go, hey, listen, everybody, if you want to get a nice picture, I'll get a nice picture now. But otherwise, man, if I'm in a moment and I want to capture that moment forever and ever, I just take the fucking picture, man. And whatever the picture is, that's what's immortalized, because that's real, man. It happened. It was a moment. People were in it, and I just happened to capture it. I'm using that as an example and as a means of just encapsulating my point, though, which is that's just, it's another way that we're not being honest with ourselves. And yet, again, I try to be honest with my imagery. That's the reason why you don't see me use a tremendous amount of different images of myself for my thumbnails, because I don't have a lot of pictures of myself that I think are really, truthful's not the right word, but it's the word I'll use. A lot of my images from pictures that I've taken have good lighting. You know, there's a decent pose in there. There's any sort of thing, right? But the ones that I took and that I've used for my thumbnails are typically ones that I took that are a bit, you know, there's a bit of play acting in there. But basically, they're literally just pictures from this. Just clip. And that's that. And the reason for that is because they're honest, in my opinion. Now, again, I'm not necessarily denigrating people's want to have perfect pictures or lovely images or anything like that. That's why photographers are paid, hopefully, paid well, to do the job that they're doing. But at the same time, I just feel like there's this need and want to perceive and shape the world as you want to see it rather than what it really is. And it makes having very difficult conversations with people very hard because they'd rather reject you or reject your stance because it doesn't suit their narratives or means. And I don't know. God's sake. I apologize. Let me put my phone on mute quickly. God damn it. Right. There you go. Shut up. Sorry about that. Right. Fucking phone's on mute now. Anyways. But coming back to myself for a second. I'll hem myself in this. I dipped my toe back into the online dating pool again recently. It's a mistake, and I'll probably cancel it soon. But what are you gonna do? Again, I don't use posed pictures of myself necessarily. I don't use any imagery enhancement. I don't use any fucking filters or any of that shit. And the reason, Charlie, you didn't miss anything, Charlie. I've been rambling for 10 minutes. So I'll only be rambling for another 10 minutes more. I'm talking about honesty, brother. I'm talking about how I don't think people are really ready, prepared, or willing to be honest with themselves, and how my honesty tends to come across a certain way. But honestly, everybody that usually tunes in for my rambles for the thing that I don't talk about anymore and anything else, you can tune this one out. This is really just for me to sit and have a conversation, and if anyone takes anything from it later, great. If not, fine. So you're not missing anything, Charlie, I promise you. Go and watch Love Island or what do normal people watch? I don't know what people watch anymore. I used to watch Top Gear on a Sunday or Match of the Day, and neither one are on because of reasons. Because I'm old. Do you know what I found today? I found a grey hair in my goddamn eyebrows. I'm getting fucking old, son. Anyways, back to the point. Honesty. So yeah, and the dating thing, so I tend to be very honest about other things about myself. I'm honest about the fact that I've got kids, that I'm not the most aspirational person in the world, that I don't really want to travel, that I have very simplistic and, let's have a look, what's he saying? Is it therapeutic to do this? Sometimes, yeah, I'll be honest with you, Charlie, and anyone that watches this. I don't have many people that I would talk to about something like this because I feel like the conversation often gets derailed quite quickly. I feel like if you ever sit down with someone and you were to ask a broad question like, do you think people are honest anymore? I think it quickly derails or it goes off on tangents that more specifically affect those people, if that makes sense. Channel 934. See now, Raquel, I don't know nothing about no Channel 934, but I'm going to Google it later to see if that's just a guess or if you're actually specifically referencing his Babe Station. Before anyone says, I'm not that good a Catholic boy, I am aware of what Babe Station is. However, Babe Station for me was basically something that was on after Comedy Central was finished like 10 years ago when I used to come in from work at sort of 10 o'clock at night, chuck Comedy Central on, watch Late Night with Jon Stewart, and then chuck it onto Babe Station just to be like, I wonder how benign the conversations are with some of these guys that these poor lasses are having to have just to get the fucking whatever it is, £2, £3 a minute that they're having to generate. But anyways, to answer Charlie's question, is it therapeutic? I find it good to be able to have these conversations because I'd rather have them with a guest, but I can't always have guests on to talk about these kinds of things. And I find that a lot of people... This is the other thing about honesty, man. I find it easy to do it one-on-one. What I find as well is when I'm trying to have a conversation with someone that's quite existential and deep, you can only really have it on a one-to-one basis. When you have it in a group, like I say, number one, it gets derailed really, really quickly. And secondly, sooner or later, someone starts taking offense. Whereas when you're on a one-to-one basis with someone, you can get to know where the lines are to the certain degree that you can start to make headway with these conversations. And it's the same with this. Because I'm on an uninterrupted platform aside from the messages, by the way, thank you very much for leaving the messages, Charlie and Rake. It means that I can explore the thought. Now, I appreciate the messages, though, because they inject something interesting into the conversation and sometimes give me a little bit of license to deviate and go on some tangents that I think are useful. And then just to say, 934. Okay, I'll make a note and I'll check that later, Rake, because I can't not check to see if you're yanking my chain or if you've given me the number because you know it. In which case, how do you know it off by heart? That's my first question. Secondly, why was that the first thing you suggested? There's terrestrial TVs on right now, brother. It's there and it's all free and well, you got to pay your TV license, obviously. Anyways, I'm being waffling now. So, back to the point. And again, I don't know whether or not people think it's disingenuous because I really do try to say to people that this is how I genuinely feel. It won't always resonate with you, and that's fine, because not everything... I disagree with people a lot. A lot. People I love, people that I'm really close and near and dear to. I find it much more compelling to me in a conversation when you don't agree with the person wholeheartedly, when there's a nuance or there's some ambiguity in some of the statements and you want to hone in and explore them. But again, I wonder if people these days see that as aggression or they see it as confrontational, because I've had that labelled against me this week again, and it's not the first time I've had that labelled against me where it's like, Lorne, you're super aggressive or you're super confrontational, and I'm like, listen, man, I don't know about the rest of you, but when I was growing up, I grew up in not a particularly intellectual or emotionally rewarding situation. Like, if I wanted to have a decent long conversation about shit, I couldn't. Not really. There wasn't really anyone around who I could explore these ideas with and kind of permeate. And to be honest, like I say, when it comes to confrontational, I think part of it is, yeah, yanking something. He's right. Part of it is that I have a deep yearning to understand things. I want to understand topics and people and things and ideas and notions. That's sometimes a painful process. You've got to dig a little deeper. You've got to push people a little bit sometimes. You've got to halt them and hold them to account on something that they've said or re-examine it, especially when I feel like they're not being genuine. Go back to the thing that happened the other day that I won't talk about extensively, but you guys can go back and watch the fucking the spaces, because it's recorded and the name got changed because apparently it wasn't that anymore. Stupid. Anyways, part of the reason that I got annoyed in that conversation was because I still feel like it's this front, it's this notion that people put up that they would rather people see and embrace as them. I'll tell you that a great example that's in the news right now is the Jermaine Genius thing, right? Topical, I know, and I'm not going to dwell on the ins and outs. I'm just using it as an example of, like, he had 2 days between going on the radio and saying, I'm not happy that this has come out and I'm not answering any questions, to giving a full-fledged interview saying how sorry he was and how he was taking full responsibility and he was disappointed and stuff. Because that's the perception he now wants putting out there. Even though we've seen him. He's there. He's right there. In his honesty, in his ambiguity and indifference to what he clearly doesn't think was a problem, to now he's had someone in his ear who said, no, I'm going to let you know that a lot of people are going to have a problem with what you did, and you should probably show some reticence and a bit of apologetic, a bit of an apology with it. And 2 days later, changes his tune. Now, that to me is the insult, because he's being purposefully and publicly disingenuous to you and to me, the audience. And with enough time and rehabilitation, chances are that fucker will be back on TV at one point. Because I think the honesty is, we look at people like him and others. I'm not citing him specifically. I'm using him as the most recent and most public example of someone that we kind of use to bolster our own inadequacies and our own failings and our morality these days. I know that's quite a complex thing, but bear with me. I don't know if all of us are ready to accept our failings as people. I know it took, and this is the reason why I'm able to sit here and say this, because I'll be honest with you, there's a lot about me I don't like. There's a lot about me that I have to work on a regular basis. I have to consistently focus and be mindful of and delegate energy to trying to keep on top of things, right? But that's not for anybody. That's for me. That's for me to be a better person, to aspire to be the kind of man that I think I should be because of what I have to handle. Not because, and this is where you know I'm getting fucking real with you, because look, I'm not popular, okay? Never been a popular person, never gonna be a popular person. Neither do I really think I want to be a popular person. Someone once said popularity is a prison. And I disagree and agree with that statement to a certain degree, but I think the meaning that they're trying to coin from that is once you're popular for something, you've got to always be that thing. You've always got to meet the expectations of that reason for your popularity. And the second you deviate from that, you get lambasted, or you deviate and you convince all your fans that that deviation is good, at which point you become the head of a fucking cult. And I'm interested in fucking neither of those things. But my point is that, you know, I had to be honest about my habits. I had to be honest about my lifestyle. I had to be honest about how I was treating people. I had to be honest about the confrontational thing that I get labelled a lot. I have to be honest about the fact that I don't mean to be that. And I don't mean to... If it's intimidation, I don't know. I'd hope it isn't, but maybe it is. I don't know. All I can tell you is I was intimidated a lot as a younger man, and maybe part of that is passed on to me through osmosis, and I've now impart that because I don't see that behaviour as being problematic. I don't know. All I can tell you is that I try really fucking hard to be mindful of those things. And I don't know if many people are until it becomes in their interests to do it. There's a reward now, or there's a punishment that would befall them if they don't at least feign the interest in doing it. It is that public apology 101 of, oh, I know I've done something terrible, and oh I'm so ashamed, and I'm so disgraced right now, and of course I will work harder to be a better man in the future. And it's like, if you hadn't been caught, whoever this applies to, this isn't just applying to your man now, no one would have fucking done a thing. They would have just waggled on. And the dishonesty would have permeated through everybody else. Because don't forget, if he's been doing it for a while, and if everyone in all of these situations has been doing it for a while, that means someone was passively allowing that shit to happen. They were being dishonest about the situation to at least the degree that something shitty was allowed to happen on a regular enough basis. And we come back to me for a second. I pipe up whenever something's wrong. I squeak whenever I see something shitty these days. If I see a homeless person getting... I told the story on the Jake Hanrahan podcast. I saw a homeless person passed out on the fucking pavement with a series of 6 or 7 people debating about what to do with it. Now, of course, I could fucking crack on with my day, but it's just not in me. So I go, listen, guys, what the fuck are you doing? There's an ambulance at the fucking petrol station. Just one of you run over and grab them. Oh, well, I would, but my... Fuck, I'll do it then. And it shouldn't be that hard to do the right thing these days. It shouldn't be hard to pull someone aside who's clearly struggling at work or out in public or in your family or in your friendship and say, hey, listen, man, sit down and be honest with me. What's really going on? But a lot of people seem to struggle with that. And I worry about that. I worry that people don't feel that they can be honest unless it's in a very, very specific set of circumstances. And even then, they have to be very selective in what they're honest about. I've been as brutally honest with you on these live streams as I possibly can. The only reason I'm omitting some of the stuff on this live stream is because it could personally affect me and other people at the moment, and so I'd rather not. But go back through my live streams, man. I put my fucking life out for you because I want to use it as a basis to explain where I'm coming from when I say certain things, so hopefully you can relate to it, or if you don't and you disagree, so that I can at least be sure that I've laid the groundwork as clearly as I can possibly clear it, and anything that needs to be rectified can be rectified. That's why the Fuck It, Let's Talk podcast, even though there was a lot of negativity attached to that, I was very pissed off that day. One of the things that it allowed me to do is just be honest. I just told it exactly how I wanted to tell it to you, and if you had questions or queries, I can refer to receipts and I can put it to you. And look, even then, it's still up to you whether or not you want to believe what I'm telling you. Because ultimately, being honest and truthful are still subjective concepts. No one can be 100% truthful or honest as it pertains to you. Your honesty and your truth are going to be different to my honesty and truth. It's difficult though. It's difficult, but it requires energy. And I guess I'm going backwards and forwards about whether or not honesty is the best policy anymore. I don't know. I don't know whether or not I should be playing the game more. If I should be being more... What's the word? I don't know what you would say as far as when you aren't 100% curt. You know, you're curt is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Just saying what you really think. I don't know. I'd love to hear what people think and what your experiences are as far as trying to say that. But anyways, let's have a look. Okay, Rake, bro, just some devil's advocate here. Genuinely looking forward to you getting into some more amazing conversations, but now it just seems like live bro. Okay, so Rake, okay, I'll address that now. Yeah, so the interviews and the conversations, that's taken a bit of a backseat over the last month or so. That's a deliberate choice on my part, buddy. That's a very deliberate choice on my part. If you've been following the show, you'll understand why. There's some time that things need to settle down a little bit first. Things need to settle down a little bit. I know a lot of people came to me for that stuff. I've told you once, I'll tell you again on this one. If you were hoping for more of that stuff going forward, it's done. It's over. I will be doing more interviews in due course, but like anything else, and like this channel, for instance, man, I'll do it because I want to do it. And actually, to Rake's point, that's why I said at the beginning of this live stream, if you're not interested in me and what I have to say, tune out. I honestly don't necessarily always do this because I want it to be 100, 200, 300 views, or because I want it to be an overwhelmingly positive thing. And to be honest, I kind of appreciate the fact that there are going to be people that say, actually, I didn't quite like this video for this reason. That's fine, because I don't want to make stuff that I think panders to you or placates you in ways that I don't want it to. When I get another interview, in the same way, I don't want people to say, oh yeah, great, brilliant interview, because if you think the interview sucked, tell me it sucked. Tell me why. I can only get... This is kind of the point of... I make from the point of honesty. I can't get better unless people are honest with me. I can't be a better person unless someone is honest with me about something that I did. In fact, you know what? I will say thanks to Rake, because from his perspective, you know, I'm just bitching. In which case, that's fine. That's his honesty. That's his take on the situation. And to be honest, the more people that can be honest about that, great. Because that's not the sort of thing I'm going to say, well, the guy's just a hater. Fuck him, and he can sling his hook. That's fine. Smokehouse, the Twitter, I forget his name. One of the things I appreciated about the discourse between me and him, for instance, is that he was an honest guy. You could tell that he wasn't pandering or placating anybody when he was tweeting. He was aware that everyone could see, yet he was being very direct and very analytical, but very reasonable. Appreciate that, man. I love that shit. That's great. So as far as Rake's comment is concerned, hey, listen, if y'all are the same, honestly, I don't mind if people don't watch these. I want to do this because to kind of Charlie's point, I don't know if I find it therapeutic, but I find it useful to explore ideas and questions. That's why I think my interviews are good, because I explore things with my guests. I don't just go, hey, so tell me about that time that you went on tour with Plan B, or tell me about that fucking album cover or something. You know, I like exploring things because then people have the license to do that too. And I think a lot of people want to explore these things. A lot of people want to explore existential conversation and topics that they don't always get a chance to. If you go to work tomorrow, for instance, and try and start up a conversation about, hey, dude, like, do you think people are honest anymore? You're probably going to get a sideways look from whoever you're working with. Like, You're on crack. Like, where... I don't know where you have the forum for it. And to Rake's point, so I just want to... but now it just seems to go live to complain about convos or your lack of them. Okay. I mean, by the way, I'll take issue with that last point. You haven't heard me pissing and moaning about the fact that I haven't had interviews. The reason I haven't had interviews is because I haven't been pursuing them. So there's no fucking magic. There's no magic fucking thing of, oh, well, Lorne's swinging and miss it. No, Lorne's not pitching. Lorne's not pitched in... who was the last person that I asked to come on for an interview? Let me think. Probably Liam Spencer. Annotate. His YouTube channel is what I'm reviewing soon. He's going to be the first in the series once I pilot that. And he said he'd be on. So that'd be kind of cool when I pull the trigger on that. It's just that until the review's live, I don't want to line up the interview. So the review will come first, and the review is something that I'm working on at the moment. I still haven't quite... So basically, with the new series that I'm trying to pilot, I'm trying to get a format that I like, that is in keeping with my show and the presentation of my show, but has a production quality that I think is to a good standard, and also has a slightly different twist to it. I want it to stand out, and I just haven't found it. I really want this series to be good. I really want this next series to be the kind of thing that really lets me open the door to some of the bigger YouTube channels, some of the bigger influencers, and really lets me get into some of the conversations that I think some of you want me to have with certain people. Call it a rehabilitation period, though. I just haven't had much of an impetus or motivation to go out and secure the interviews. So Rake, if that's the main crux of your gripe, I apologize for the lack of interviews and for the sort of the supplementation of the live streams. I've got to want to do the interviews though, and right now it's hard to be interested in other people and their lives and their work without sufficient motivation on my part. It'll come. I can never be away from YouTube for very long. I always need to scratch that itch sooner or later, but we'll come back to it. So Charlie's commented here. So and here I'm being diplomatic. All the same, I play it close to the chest. Lol. I think it's another play on the yanking something thing. In which case, Charlie, keep it clean. Come on now. Actually, I'm not. It doesn't matter. You can say fuck or whatever. It's funny. No one ever swears in my comment sections. I don't know why. I don't know if I've promoted a swear-free comment section. I don't know. Anyways, Charlie also then says, I think popularity is like a wave. It's popular to hate Drake right now, but when it passes, because people have their own lives, they'll go back to listening to him like they didn't call him a paedophile. Charlie, I'm just start a cult. Just do it. Yeah, no one's joining my cult, brother. No one's joining my cult, and neither would I want to start a cult anyway. I'll join someone else's before I start my own. Let's touch on the nature of popularity for a second then. I think popularity, because it kind of ties into the nature of honesty. I think a lot of people dust over people they like, people that are popular. Like it's the reason why... Oh, okay. So, I'll touch on that then. So, Charlie's then comment. No, I was just talking about my personality. So, and diplomat. You use the word diplomatic there. That's interesting. I guess there's nothing wrong with being diplomatic. The trouble is, though, when you've got to say something about someone or something you're supposedly loyal to. And I have a bit of a problem with that. I feel like... Let's take Arsenal as an example, because it's a very easy thing for me to point to. By the way, I didn't realise that this is called a pop guard, or popping guard. And I learnt that because I saw a clip of Chester Bennington do a rock thing, and that made me sad, because it reminded me Chester Bennington's not around anymore. Anyways, Arsenal. So, fandom is kind of what you're talking about there in terms of diplomacy, in the sense that you are supposed to be almost unilaterally positive when you're a supporter or a fan of something. Then you've got Arsenal, who've got Arsenal fan television, who literally make their money off of getting a series of extremely angry young men and just giving them a mic and letting them just say whatever comes to mind. And it's the most torrid, shitty, stupid fucking format. And it makes me genuinely embarrassed as it does. It stops your pops, you're right. It makes me embarrassed to be an Arsenal fan. AFTV is a fucking blight on the Arsenal fucking fandom. However, there was a time where they would have probably been lampooned by the Arsenal faithful because it would have been just a bad thing to be so openly defiant of something you're supposed to be a fan of. In fact, in many ways, they would probably be culpable for some of the things I've been culpable for the thing that I'm not talking about anymore. You know, all you are is relentlessly negative. All you are is critical, yada, yada, yada. And it's this thing of, it stems from a place of, I love this thing and I want it to be better. And it could be better because I've noticed things about it that are bad that could be addressed. And there are things that aren't being addressed for reasons that I don't agree with. Now, AFTV have then gone to the extent of just making everything bad, and anyone that has a bad game is immediately trash and has to be sold, nay, shot out of a fucking cannon to clear Islington into Haringey. And that's where I get off that bandwagon. But what I appreciate about the nature of discourse, at least to a certain degree, is this idea that you can be negative about things you love because those things that you love could always be better. In fact, let's take Rake's comment as an example. Hopefully Rake likes the channel. Hopefully he likes the interviews. Maybe he even likes some of the interviews that I did at the first thing when I was still figuring out this whole fucking format and didn't really know what I was doing. Maybe even some of the fucking reviews that I did, gaming reviews. Who knows? I don't know. And the comment comes from, he sees a problem and he wants to say, I think you should do this to fix it. Do you know what? Again, I've got no issue with that whatsoever. That's if that's where it's coming from, of course. But that I'd kind of encourage because it's honest. It comes from somewhere where they're observing something that they feel is honest and true. Now, there is something to be said about, oh man, you might not hear anything. Hang on, I'm just going to wait for YouTube to say that they're actually... There it is. Okay, right, now I'll carry on talking. If it's coming from a place of honesty, I've got no problems with it. No problems with it at all. And so long as the person is reasonable enough to hear my retort, I've got no problems with that at all either. But again, I don't know if we're in a place right now where that's really possible all the time. And I'm just saying that. And to come back to Charlie's point, I think a lot of people feel that way. I think a lot of people feel that they have to be diplomatic. And that word is key because what does diplomacy relate to? Politics. And who are professional people in politics? Politicians. And who the fuck trusts a politician these days? So my point stands that if you're being diplomatic and ergo political, you're a politician, you're not being particularly genuine. And you can't deal with problems unless you can be honest that they're there. You can't deal with problems unless you can be honest about what the solution's going to be. And again, I'll throw myself under the bus. I was overweight. I had an anger problem. I was financially crippling myself because I'd convinced myself I needed to live a certain way. I used to curtail my own opportunities a lot because I used to convince myself on a regular basis, no, you're not good enough for that. No, you're not smart enough for that. No, that's for other people who are luckier and better than you. It can work both ways. You can hinder yourself by not being honest. And so I've kind of vowed ever since to just be, look, I'm going to be as dead truthful as I can possibly be. Because in doing so, I will always start from the understanding that we have a shared reality and I want to build from it. Charlie, you're single-handedly keeping the comment section afloat here, by the way. You're kind of dominating it, and I love it. Diplomacy is the act of telling someone to go to hell in a way that they enjoy the stroll, according to Churchill. What a hell of a line. I love that. Diplomacy is the act of telling someone to go to hell in a way that they want to enjoy the stroll. I really like that. That's good. That's good. And this is the other stupid thing, by the way. So this conversation could probably be circumnavigated by me saying, do you know what? I probably could be more political and diplomatic. I probably could walk that line a little bit better. if I felt that would be in people's interests. And I don't. I don't think it is. Not all the time. It feels like it's all the time at the moment. People want to say the popular thing rather than the right thing. People want to present themselves in a certain light. You didn't butcher the quote. No, that's fine. I love it. Even if it's not even close to verbatim, Charlie, I fucking love that. That's brilliant. Fantastic. 10 out of 10. No notes. This is what I'm trying to say. The comments add this thing, man. This is what I'm trying to say. If I had, to kind of Rake's point, the reason this live stream is this: if I really did have someone that I felt like I could go backwards and forwards with on a regular enough basis without the conversation ultimately deviating to a certain degree, I would. But this is the place I have them because I still feel they need to be had. There's people I'll come clean about something before I decided to take kind of a hiatus. At the beginning of my little wobble last month, there were a few people I'd invited on to talk about the riots, for instance, and there'd been a few people that I'd asked on to come and talk about some wider issues, for instance, in the form and guise of an interview. Sadly, they said, I'll think about it, or I'm not too keen, or whatever. So, you know, again, it's one of those things where it's my channel. I'll put on what I want. If that isn't to your liking, that's fine. It's not a problem at all. I don't hold any ill will to anyone that says, nah, not for me. Because, again, the other thing about my channel that I want to keep consistent is I want to do something a little bit different anyway. I want to be different to everybody else because the fact is, what's the point in not being honest to myself, number one, and secondly, by going ahead and doing something that I don't enjoy. So, yeah. But yeah, where are we? 42 minutes. Right, let's wrap this in about 5. So let's just circle back to the reason that I kind of spoke this is because I think what I'm trying to get to is I'm trying to figure out a way of being honest but without it being interpreted as hostility or confrontation or anything like that. And I think part of it is, again, what I was saying at the beginning where I was like, I don't know if people trust that. There's a disingenuous untrustworthiness to someone that says, look, I'm going to tell you honestly what I think. Because people now seem to take that as, oh, so he's about to lie to me. And it's weird because you can walk that line as often as you can. You can bring evidence to that equation. But that feeling people have trumps everything. And I don't know. So I could be more diplomatic, but I don't know if I'm smart enough to figure a way of making my opinions more palatable to people, even when I know I've done the fucking legwork and I've done the reps and I've thought about it. And I'm reasonably certain that my perspective and opinion should be something that should be considered more seriously. I don't know if I'm smart enough to recontextualize it and present it to people. And that's where I'm stuck. That's why the topic of this video is that it's costing me and it's still going to cost me because for the meantime, at least, I have no intentions of changing. I'm just going to let that, again, I know it's cost me and people think less of me for it. And here's the thing I would encourage you to think about when you decide to switch off or unfollow me or mute me, because I'm relentless in this kind of narrative or this kind of rhetoric that I put forward. Wouldn't you rather someone tell you the truth when you need to hear it than surround yourself with people that would never tell you the truth, especially when you need to hear it? So long as it comes from the right place, so long as you're not being fed it by people that are trying to manipulate you, that are trying to permeate negativity in your life, that are trying to make you feel bad, that are only looking to make themselves look better. Again, people seem to have no problems being truthful when it means putting themselves over, making themselves feel better. I will share with you that over the last couple of weeks, I've had a lot of conversations with a lot of different people in various aspects of my life, and I've tried to be as honest as possible, and not once, not fucking once, has it had anything to do with making my situation better. The honesty wasn't for me, it was for them. And it's, oh, thanks. And it makes you wonder why you fucking bother at all. It really does. Would you prefer I lie to you? Would you prefer I simply put it to you how you want to hear it, so that when everything's on fire around you and you're burning alive, you can see me tapping on the outside of your burning house, waving to you saying, no, don't worry, it's still fine. Is that what people prefer? I don't know if it is or it isn't. I just don't know anymore. And so I wanted to talk about it because, again, in my experience, and I guess I'm using myself as a cautionary tale, because I guess what I'm saying is, people, I don't know if this is something everyone should do. I think it does me more damage than it's worth. And so I'm telling you all to go lie. Go, spread forth. Spread malicious rumors. Tell people you liked them when you don't. Make sure to compliment the person on the thing that you don't like so that they continue to do it. I guess that's what I'm telling people. I guess that's what I'm telling people to do. To go and be disingenuous. Go forth and be disingenuous pieces of shit. And let me be the asshole in the corner that's just being a cynical dickhead, just being honest about everything the way he sees it. And just point to him and say, yeah, he's wrong. He must be wrong. No one likes what he says. It's like, oh, okay, cool. I think, what's the saying? Truth hurts. Truth hurts. Emperor Palpatine. I make this point the other day as far as my popularity is concerned. Lone is literally in my name. You just drop the R. So is it any wonder that I tend to roll solo? Nah, not really. I think I was preordained to walk alone. Shout out Batista. Anyways, I've rambled for 47 incoherent and nonsensical minutes. And I'll leave you with this by saying, listen, I don't know if honesty really is the best policy. Why did you use an old picture in the thumbnail? Because I don't have any new ones. I haven't. So my old phone stand that I used to have a tripod with a phone mounting at the top. I've lost the top. I need to buy a new one. But because I don't do a games show or game reviews or anything, I never bought a new one. So I don't have anything to put this on to be able to take pictures with. So I don't take a lot of pictures because I can't put a green screen up to make it look and light it properly and all the rest of it. So that's why I use an old thumbnail, because it's the only one that's lit properly, that's taken with a decent enough camera lens and blah, blah, blah. And my facial expression typified the expression I was wanting to put across in this video, which is I'm just exacerbated by everyone saying, oh yeah, I'm real, man. Oh yeah, I'm truthful, and oh, I tell it how it is. Fuck all of you who say that, because none of you fucks ever have any kind of inclination about what honesty is, because if you did, you'd have far fucking fewer friends, let me tell you. You tell more fibs than you'd ever care to admit. You naughty little sods. If Santa were real, he'd have you motherfuckers on the naughty list like that, son. Whereas me, I'd be on the nice list, but I'd be on a subsection where it says, yeah, but kind of a wanker, so no presents for him. But that's fine. I'd make my peace with it. I've already got my fucking Buzz Lightyear and my Dragon Dagger, and no shiny Charizard yet. I'm still working on that. I'll get round to my shiny Charizard one of these days. One of these days, Pinky, I'll take over the world and get a shiny Charizard. Not a first edition. I'm not fussed about that. I just want an original shiny Charizard. Not the dark Charizard, not any of the newfangled ones, the original shiny Charizard. Not the Japanese one either. I want it in English, but don't need a first edition or any of the fucking other editions that they had. I just want my shiny Charizard. That's all I want. I'm prepared to be lied to for that. If you want to tell me you'll sell me your shiny Charizard for $5, I'm prepared to believe you. I know you're lying, but I want to believe so bad. So anyways, yeah, truth hurts. And I would encourage people to be diplomatic is fine, but I think a lot of the problems we face, a lot of the issues that we come across day to day are not going to get better unless we're prepared to be honest with ourselves and with each other. And at the moment, I don't see a lot of that. I see a lot of rhetorics being peddled. I see a lot of good intentions. I see a lot of well-wishing. And those things are not honesty. They're how you want the world to be seen and to see, not what it is. And as ugly as some of the things that we encounter are, and as hard as some of these things are to process, we don't grow unless we do. I can only tell, again, I'm only pointing to myself. With other people, it's still an ongoing battle. I don't know really how to be honest with people yet in a way that they'll be receptive to. But to myself, fuck, man. One of the greatest, most productive upticks in my life and lifestyle was when I was just fucking ready to say, right, it's time for some fucking honesty. And it got a lot better from there. Lot better from there, I promise you. But that's just me. So, go forth, multiply the lies, spread rumors and malicious shit. Go ahead, why not? You get one life, and maybe there's Jesus, and maybe he'll judge you. Maybe he won't. Who knows? All that I can say is in 4 billion years, our universe will collide with another, and we'll all be dead, and anyone that we will ever know, or who will ever know us, won't exist anyway. So, what does it all really matter anyway? We're just dust in the wind, so who cares? Anyways, I've just noticed a few extra people have tuned in just as I get really, really nihilistic. So, anyways, I've been your host, Lorne Risley, host of the Halcyon Show. Thank you very much for joining me. Charlie, thank you for joining us. Rake, thanks for your honesty. I appreciate it. Actually, Charlie as well. He was honest on this one. To anyone that sees this after the fact, yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, now he's inspired. Yeah, go ahead. Lie, cheat, steal, spread rumors. It doesn't matter anyway. We're all going to die one day. As far as everybody else is concerned, I've had a really shit week. And I sincerely hope whatever you're up to this coming week, whoever you bump into, whatever you fill your time with, is as joyful and as prosperous and as happy and just fulfilling as it possibly can be. So, I've been your host. Thank you very much for joining me. I sincerely hope you're taking care of yourself and everyone in your world is happy and healthy, you included. To Rake's point, I don't know. Do you want me to just say it? The next video that goes up is an interview? Okay, alright. The next interview, the next time you see a ping on my channel, it'll be an interview. It won't be another live stream. If y'all are sick of me trying to muse about the world publicly, okay, fine. Fine. I'm definitely not lying to you. Definitely not lying to you when I say the next one is definitely going to be an interview. It's definitely going to be an interview. It might not be an interview. I guess you'll have to find out, won't you? You have to tune in and see. My name's been Lorne Risley, host of the Halcyon Show, and I'll see you on what is definitely going to be an interview on the next episode of the Halcyon Show.